Good morning. My name is Jenny Sauer. Welcome to the End User Tools Present Spotted Lanternfly Nationwide Visual Data Collection using ArcGIS Field Maps. That's a kind of a big wordy title, I know, but I know we've also all been anxiously awaiting the new 2023 rollout of the nationwide visual for spotted lanternfly. And so this is a refresh. So some of you may already have used this last year and feel pretty okay. And if so, thank you for attending. It's always great to get you back and make sure that you are up to date on any changes or any updates and feel comfortable using this. I have a poll up that's just asking you what type of mobile device you plan to use to collect this data. And it's just kind of a curiosity for me. It helps me decide how much time to spend showing you the differences between these two. I've given you the option of iPad or iPhone, and I'm seeing that there's a lot of you using an iPhone this year or planning to use an iPhone. So I'll make sure to show you on the iPhone what that looks like. And there is a couple things to really be aware of on an iPhone if you're using it. So thank you for answering that poll. I see that actually the majority of you seem to be leaning iPhone over iPad, and none of you said not sure, so that's great. It sounds like we've got a prepared bunch. So I'm going to end that poll, and thank you so much for doing that for me. So again, welcome to this year's Spotted Lanternfly Nationwide Visual Survey. It is used to collect data in states that do not have an established population. So all surveys that you're collecting in this data set are assumed to be negative. So positive findings are tracked in state-specific surveys. There is also set for those state-specific surveys to receive a refresh, and Erica Willey and the End User Tools developers will be working to roll those out state by state soon. This is much anticipated every year to get a refresh on a map and be up to date on the new year. You should have a couple things at your side ready to go. Number one, that mobile device that we just talked about, you should feel comfortable using. You should have an understanding of the Field Maps application. And since this app used that last year, many of you might feel really comfortable. If not, there is training available. I'll show you that in just a moment. And survey protocol. You should feel really good about survey protocol. And your contact for that is Erica, present here today as your new acting National Operations Manager. And congratulations and welcome to that position, Erica. I'm going to put two links in the meeting chat, and I want to show you these two resources right off the bat. Okay, so the first link here is this mobile data collection tools website. This is a public-facing website on APHIS's website. So this applies to internal and external users. State cooperators can find this as well. This is all things training for this mobile data collection support, as the name might indicate. You'll find a couple of things. This training events page is a calendar list of all the training available. So when training becomes available, the link is there for you to register. There's general training documents. And I mentioned that Field Maps has training support. There it is listed under general training documents. There's a user guide and several job aids there for you. And then pest-specific program training documents are here on another page. That's where you'll find this program. If you kind of scroll down, Spotted Lanternfly, and we're looking for nationwide visual surveys, there is a manual and a quick reference, or just like a one-page cheat sheet there for you as well. So you have written documentation. You also have, I'm just going to swoop back to that main page. If you scroll to the bottom, we have a video gallery, and you have archived videos from last year, which will tell you things on this program. But this meeting here today, this training we're all creating together today, will also show up here under the pest programs category. You can type it in and search for it. It really should show up kind of right here at the top as the newest. And you got to give me maybe a week or so, probably 5 to 7 days, and I'll get that video up here so that if you miss something, if you want to review it, if you want to maybe in a few months look back at the training, or if you have coworkers that maybe couldn't be here today, this is where you'll find that video training. The second link is a training quiz. And it's not required that you complete this quiz, but it sure does help both of us out a little bit. It's just meant to be a low pressure test of your knowledge. And I give it to you right at the start because I don't mind if you complete the quiz as we're talking and as it's fresh in your mind, but make sure that you test your knowledge while it's fresh. Make sure that you have an understanding of what we talk about here today. This is a really pretty easy survey. That said, you might be feeling nervous, and I always think about Bob Ross says, anything that you're willing to practice, you can do. So this is the time to practice, test your knowledge, make sure you understand. And this quiz, the third question here asks for your email address. So you want to type that in carefully because what it does is it's connected to an automation. So when you submit the quiz, you'll receive an automatic email that says, congratulations, you completed this training. So that's something that you can pass on to your supervisor, or maybe just keep on a list for yourself so that you know that you've completed this training. And it helps me out too. So I have a metric that you are getting the things that I'm putting out there during these trainings. So make sure that you take advantage of this quiz as well. So both of these links are in your chat box. And if someone would remind me later in the training, I'm going to put them back in the chat box again at the end. Sometimes people join later and then they miss out on seeing that bit in the chat. So if anyone wants to remind me at the end, I'll try to do that again. So one of the caveats, if I move on here, that I do want to cover is that a lot of this you already know, and what you're getting here today is really just the very end. So this is kind of just a little picture of what we're doing. We're just climbing up to the top to get that goal or that trophy at the top, and the trophy being, I feel totally comfortable and confident, capable, I can collect this data. And it is built on some foundational training. Like I said, survey protocol, being pretty savvy with the device you're going to use, likewise comfortable with the Field Maps application, and I can help with some of that, but not all. And as I mentioned, your National Operations Manager is responsible for communicating that survey protocol side of things. And this training is really your last stop, your quick stop, just to make sure you understand how to use the application as it was designed to collect the data. And so we're going to do that here today. And you have Eric Willey, you also have Matthew Travis as the program manager as your points of contact. Kind of a funny thing that I just realized, I just found what it's officially called in some circles, but you see this little picture here where we have a main path that's been laid out, and the path that humans have just made by trudging right through that grass, right straight through the middle of the grass. They've created their own path, and this is called, when humans do it, a desire path. You might have seen these in the side of a hill where animals have created that pathway, and that's the path that other animals follow because it's the easy way and it goes straight to where they want to go. So I have this little picture here just to kind of beg you to stay on the path as it's designed and not take those shortcuts or desire paths. And what I'm thinking of is those iPhone users especially, but the iPad users too. Be sure that you are using that disconnected workflow. Make sure that you are taking the time to prep and use an offline map area. And especially I'm picking on you iPhone users because it's really easy to think, well, I have a cellular data plan, I'm connected, it's so much easier, I don't have to do that prep. But staying on the path has lots of benefits. For instance, finding that you're not connected in a more rural area or even in urban environments between buildings can be spotty. Maybe having a sync fail halfway through and the kind of problems there. Occasionally we have our servers, which are being pinged when you're live like that constantly, have an overload from so many using it that way. Or maybe the system is down for the day. If you have followed the workflow to work offline, you can continue your work for the day, collecting data offline in your map that you've downloaded and wait until that's back up to synchronize your data. So I'm just here to kind of, I'll place a little no-go X on that path and just beg you to stay on the pathway, go around the long way, even though it feels a little bit like there's a little more time invested, but please just do me the honor of staying off that desire path for this workflow. So what are we going to talk about today? Just going to cover a little bit the Field Maps app, how to sign in, what it looks like, just a tiny bit so that you feel secure there. It gets a little tricky for some of us. We're going to look at, there are 2 maps for you to use, one for practice. So Bob Ross's technique that being willing to practice, you'll learn it. So one is for practice or training and one is for official data collection. I'm just going to make that really clear for you. Just an overview of what that disconnected workflow should look like, the layers that are involved in this nationwide visual survey. The data form itself will have a demo on the iPad. It's a little bit bigger, so easier for you to see. But because I know some of you are iPhone users, I will also show you what that looks like on the iPhone. And then some reminders of things just to be extra mindful of when you're collecting data in the Field Maps application. So ArcGIS Field Maps. As I said, we have an introduction to the Field Maps application. There's a 10 video series, 10 little short videos that are self-paced that you can complete as sort of a prerequisite of moving forward. If you haven't done that, please take a moment to review those. Maybe there's a couple videos that you feel could use a refresher. Make sure you feel comfortable and confident. And there's a user guide that's written that can help support you there. When you first open Field Maps, it kind of looks like this. In fact, it exactly looks like this. So you have these options to sign in, either with ArcGIS Online or Enterprise or skip sign in. And here in the federal government, our secured option is ArcGIS Enterprise. So we're always going to tap this ArcGIS Enterprise option to sign in. And then we get something that looks like this. The first time you sign into ArcGIS Field Maps, you'll just see these bottom 2 options, specify a new URL or scan code, and we're going to tap specify a new URL. Now you can see there's a website URL right above it, and that's because I've previously signed in. So this little option here with a URL already manually typed in, then ever after is there for you to tap instead. So the first time I would specify a new URL and type that in carefully with the keyboard that pops up. And after that, I've got it there just as reference. And so I'll tap that to sign in. Now, I mentioned already the 2 separate maps. End User Tools Group really wants you to be able to practice and play and feel good about data collection before you just go into official data collection. We've created these separate maps that are just for training or for practice, or as in the case of today, I will use the training map just to demonstrate for you data entry. And we do encourage you to go ahead and use that, but it does make things a little tricky because that sign-in process asks you to enter a URL and sign into a separate portal to use the training version. And I'll just give it a couple boxes here so you see the difference in that URL. Our official data collection, or we call this the production portal, is maps.mrp.usda, etc. And the training, or we call it the stage portal, is maps-stg.mrp, etc. And so this -stg is really referencing it as a staging portal. And so the big caveat here, and it's a question on the quiz if you're on that part, just be very careful that you are not entering practice or play or training data in the official map, and vice versa, that you aren't entering by accident official data in the training map. So just be sure that you're in the right one. There's a couple ways to know that. Our training maps, the title of the map starts with training in all caps. I'll point that out in just a moment. And the base map, or the background imagery that you see in a training map, is kind of a dull light gray mix, whereas the official map is beautiful imagery. So make sure that you are in the right map when you're entering data versus when you're just practicing. But we do encourage you to practice if that's what makes it perfect, right? Okay, this disconnected mode workflow, really what it's referring to is being disconnected from the internet or Wi-Fi while collecting that data. And it, as I said, is a typical kind of desire to stay connected if you can, because there is some prep, and this red box is the pre-prep kind of category. Basically, ArcGIS Field Maps was specifically designed to operate while disconnected. It is a field application, and it is assumed that in the field, this connectivity is not available. So what you do is an area of interest is downloaded to your device while you're connected to a Wi-Fi network that you deem as reliable and connect to. So this is kind of in the user's control. Then that device is, well, the last little bullet point here, I always recommend a last minute parking lot test. So before you leave, while you're disconnected, just open it up and make sure everything is working as you expect. But then you can disconnect from the internet. You can go on out to the field, spend time collecting data, all the way until a reliable network connection is regained. And then that data is synchronized with the online map that's hosted up in that USDA MRP enterprise portal, that official portal. And I put a little bullet point here. That might be when you charge your device too before the next day. But it's really important, the steps here in this red box, I'll give them a little twirl. Those are the important steps to success. And also this sync step is very important to success. And in fact, the daily sync could be done in the morning before leaving and in the evening at the end, because that is a two-way sync. It both pushes the data you collected up to that online map and pulls any updates into your downloaded map area on your device. So that's an important piece of that puzzle. The data layers, I pulled this straight off the iPad as a screenshot. There's a markup layer that's just a feature of field maps we don't really encourage using because it stays on your device and isn't easily shared, but you can find a use for that if your supervisor wants to find a use for that layer. It really literally just lets you mark things on the map for yourself. The official map layer for data collection is the one that has a blue toggle switch, so that means it is enabled and visible. The SLF Nationwide Visual Surveys 2023. You also have a reference layer here below it that is defaulted to off but can be toggled back on. And that's the 2022 layer for this survey. So let's have a look. We've talked about it enough. Let's have a look at what that looks like from the iPad. I'm going to share my camera. And I'm going to exit out of that. So this is my PPQ remotely managed iPad. And so I have all of these field applications, and I'm just going to tap Field Maps to open it. Now, Field Maps really works for you. So I had previously signed in, as you saw. Not only did it keep me signed in, but it pulled me into the last map I was looking at, which happens to be our map for today. But I'm going to go ahead and go back 2 times for the main map menu. And right away, first of all, I know I was in that staging portal. That's how I signed in this morning, but I'm also seeing lots of signs. Number one, I see training all over the place, both in the thumbnail images and in the titles of the map. See that training in all caps? But if I was in doubt at all, my saying is when in doubt, sign out. You can go to your profile menu, scroll up and sign out, and that will allow you to sign in again to be sure you're signed into the proper portal or URL as we discussed before. So I know I'm okay. If I need to, I can scroll for that SLF Nationwide Visual Surveys. I've just been in it, so it's here at the top, but I could also use this search bar to find it. And I'm going to open that map card. Now I'm on purpose connected to Wi-Fi. So I don't know if you can see, but there it's blue and I'm connected to Wi-Fi. So I have access to the online map, but I've also downloaded an offline map. So I see that as in this is the online map, which you won't see if you're disconnected to Wi-Fi. You won't see that option. And then I can see this as a downloaded map. I can see how big it is and what date it was downloaded. And I've renamed it to be so that I can see that it's the nationwide for my area. I'm in Windsor, Colorado, and street is me referring to the level of detail I applied to this. So it's a street level of detail. So I'm going to go ahead and open that offline map. And I can tell I'm in an offline map because of this sync icon at the top. These two arrows is the sync icon. If you're in a map collecting data and you don't see a sync icon, you are not working offline, you are working live. So we want to always see this icon on our maps. That's going to tell us that we're staying on the path. And that's where I want you, right? So there's a sync icon here. And if I tap that, I have the option to sync. And auto sync should be disabled or toggled off. See, if I just tap that, it turns it on. And I want to keep that off. We want to make sure that you are synchronizing data when you are connected to a reliable Wi-Fi connection. And we want to make sure that that's happening at your decision making and under your control. So make sure that auto sync is off. Another icon here we have, it looks like kind of a stack of papers. And if we tap that, that's your layers menu. And this probably looks familiar to that slide that you just saw previous to this. And here's the same thing. We've got our markup layer, which is disabled right now. We have our current layer that we are adding data to, the visual surveys for 2023, and we have a reference layer for 2022. If we want to see that, we can turn it on. I'm going to keep it off. I don't actually think there are any in my area, and exit out of there. This 3-dot or overflow menu also has something useful. The legend I really appreciate. So if you want to know what these symbols on the maps are referring to, you can hit legend, and the legend will tell you what all of these symbols mean based on what layers are enabled. So I only had the one layer enabled, remember, and that's our current layer that we're editing. And you can see that SLF nationwide visual surveys are symbolized by the host. And so we can see that, you know, maybe let's say, what is this guy? This one's a transport vehicle, because we can reference that legend. So if you're ever in doubt, you have a legend to look at. This is also where you would maybe start marking up. If you had a markup layer that you wanted to use, you would enable the layer first so that you could see it. And then this is where you would begin marking up if you wanted to use that markup layer. There's some other tools in here that are really great. You could change the base map. You could use the measure tool. We're not going to worry about that too much. This is a really simple map. So let's say you want to begin collecting data. In order to add data, there is literally an add button. So this add button here shows up, and we just tap that. And your first question really is, which of the hosts are we looking at here? So again, as I said, I don't really know your survey protocol. You want to know how this is being done. I'm going to go ahead and choose something that I don't already have. I'm going to go fruit tree. And this GPS is actually doing a really great job. I'm in my basement, and it's meeting accuracy parameters. So it does this two ways. It messages you with a blue circle around your crosshairs, and it also tells you what exact accuracy you're meeting up here in blue writing. If you're not meeting GPS accuracy, this is in red, and you get a warning sign. I'm going to pull this away from me, just update the point away from me so that you can see it a little better. And this blue dot is always the GPS placement of myself standing with my iPad. So that's where I am, but I'm placing the point away just so you can see it. You can see it opened a data form, and there's a couple things about this data form. There are required fields that are indicated by an asterisk or a gray star after the field name. Some are not required. For instance, survey comments is not required. And there are some defaults here. So the agency you can see was pulled in. Also, the host that we picked originally was pulled in by default. If this needs to be changed, even right here, I could decide to change that. So we know we had a red circle. If I changed to transport vehicle, that changes right away and updates the symbol. I'm going to keep that red just so we can have that difference of symbolization. Same thing with agency. If you tap it, I could change that. Maybe I'm an academic institution that's collecting the data. We also have hints or placeholders. So under surveyor, it says first and last names. Okay, that's what we need to enter. So I'll go ahead and do that using the keyboard. If the next field is asking for the keyboard, you'll get this next. If I hit done, I can also just go ahead and tap the next field and keep going. I think I'm going to just name this as test 4. And survey comments, I'm also going to write in test. I want to be really clear. Something that typically gets me a little messy is when I tap the date, it opens a calendar. We are restricted to this year, so if I go back, I can't even select anything in December. We're collecting for 2023, but I have on occasion accidentally tapped a date. To go back to today, there is a today toggle, so I can just tap today and it jumps right to today's date stamp. And what I like to do then once I'm secure in the date is close this by tapping that field again, just to be sure that I don't accidentally tap something I shouldn't. Now we have, moving down the form, pest status details. And these are pre-populated as well and can be changed to update what accurate data it dictates. I'm going to leave those the same. And then we also have data QC details, and these are not editable by you. These are maintained by GIS and by editors, so we don't worry too much about that. So now I've entered all of the data in that form. I always go back to the top and just give it another look. Oh, wait, I'm not an academic institution. I'm actually USDA APHIS. Okay, and I check it through. Everything looks great. And I'm going to hit submit at the top right. And what it does is it's submitted it, but only to your device. Remember, we're working in an offline map, and something changed here with the sync button. Now we have a little dot that indicates that there is something in my map that needs to be sent out, the out arrow. So that's a nice little indicator that you have something on your device in your offline map that you do need to sync. Also, it remains selected. So this entry that we just completed is selected and is visual. If we wanted to, we could edit it because it's selected. I'm going to close out of that to show you an example of editing a different or a previous entry. So let's look at this transport vehicle. And let's say it was not a transport vehicle. It was actually something else and we need to change the host. So I've selected it by tapping it. If there's a lot of entries close by, you may need to zoom in or out and just be sure. And you might want to check by the site name or some unique indicator to be sure you've selected the correct item that needs to be updated. But now we have a little pencil here, or I could scroll down in the form itself and get to edit. And if I select edit, it opens that form that was view only now to editing. So I can go ahead and change that transport vehicle. I'm going to say it was a grape. Whoops. Wow, I really messed that one up. And now that I've changed that, I would do the same thing again. Really review your form. Was there anything else that needed to be changed? Is this all accurate? And then this is just like any other data entry. I'm going to need to hit submit. And there we go. We've edited that one. And that's really the crux of this, this survey. It's pretty easy. So let's go back and see what I've missed based on this PowerPoint. So that's entering a visual survey, which is assumed to be negative, in the nationwide visual surveys data form. Reminders. So this always kind of hits us as they're not hard. We've talked about them at all, but let's put it all in one spot. Remember that there's two maps. We have that official map where we enter official data and a training version where we get to practice, just like we did here today. Also remember to stay on the path. Please, I beg you, don't take the desire path. Stay in that disconnected mode, use that workflow, and be sure that you're prepared to go out. Do those tests in the parking lot, make sure you're ready to go out in the field, and do collect data well offline. That daily data sync, though, is so important. Like I said, it goes two ways. It pushes your data out. It also updates your offline map from that service and anyone else who might be collecting data or making changes. Careful data collection. I don't mean this to be insulting, but like I said, I have my own things. I've spelt my name wrong. You know, there's little things that happen when you're trying to type things in or making selections. And during the course of a form, maybe something is fat fingered or you got the wrong date. Always take one more second and just go over that form and make sure that you're being careful with your data collection. The markup layer we talked about briefly. It's there as a feature of all field maps. It's just a feature that's available. Just be really careful with that layer if you use it, because it does only stay in your map. It's like a private diary, basically, little notebook for yourself. And so you can't share it out very easily. And, just make sure that official data is not going in that markup layer if you choose to use it. We didn't see it, but the submit button could fail when you hit submit. And what will cause it to fail is not meeting that GPS accuracy, which I'm meeting easily even in my basement, which is hilarious, or missing one of those required fields. And the nice thing about it is you'll hit submit and it will give you messaging that indicates what's up, and it will even direct you to which field is required that's missing. And then you go ahead and fill it in and hit submit again and you're good to go. But if you find a failure there, that's what's happening. Well, we walked it all through, and you know some resources and where to get some help, but sometimes things still kind of come up. You never know what's going to happen, and so I kind of like to give you a little getting help page. Like I said, for the Spotted Lanternfly program, we have an acting National Operations Manager. As of this week, even, Erica Willey. We've got Matthew Travis, who's the National Policy Manager. And so anything survey protocol related, any questions that you might have there, go to them. iPad, I should change this to also include iPhones. Any iOS device that you're using, you have the support of CECIT. They are paid to support those devices. Open a ticket, get the help that you need if you're having issues with those devices. Access to what I just call the portal, but really I'm talking about access to the maps or the application itself. Any problems like that, follow this order. Of course, go to your supervisor first. They probably have lots more options available to them, but they may go to these second bullet points as well. They may go to the local field GIS specialist that supports your area. They may also use this email address to ask these kinds of questions. Excuse me. This webgis.connect@usda.gov, and that email is also answered by a group, so you'll get the best response possible. Anything training, remember End User Tools Group, that EUTG stands for End User Tools Group, which is my group. We really try to support that. Make sure that you're checking out the Mobile Data Collection Tools webpage. We update it often, sometimes daily, and we really try to make sure that everything possible is there for you. So make sure to go there for anything that you need training-wise. So what we covered today, we talked really quickly through some things that have more support elsewhere, but we did review the Field Maps application, what it looks like to sign in, the official versus training map concept. We overviewed that disconnected workflow. I think I begged you pretty hard to please use it. We looked at the layers that are involved. You have one active layer to edit, and you have some reference layers and a markup layer to use if you'd like. We looked at the data form. I didn't show you the iPhone, I just realized, so let me show you what that looks like quickly. And then we went over some reminders. So let me show you that iPhone view. And something that I've done in the iPhone, let me sign into it, is I am signed into the production portal. So that will give you a different view there. Okay. So as you can see, much smaller screen, but I'm going to put it right on top so you can see the two differences there. All right, and I'm looking for my Field Maps application, which is right here. Same thing, I'll tap it to open. And like I said, I know that I'm signed into that official USDA MRP maps URL. And one way that I can tell that is I am looking at maps that don't have that training in the title or in that thumbnail. And again, if I want to, there's my profile menu. I can go ahead and sign out. I'm not going to do that. I want you to see another map. So I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at a map that I have for EWBBB just to show you what that looks like briefly. And I have an offline map. There's an area right there that's downloaded. Just like on the iPad, I have a map that's been downloaded. And if I open that, I can see the imagery is beautiful. I'm getting a Let me say later for now, getting an error. But you can see the difference, the little gray base map on the iPad versus an imagery map on the iPhone. And that is the difference in that URL that I used to sign in. So I have a training map on the iPad and I have an official data collection map here on the iPhone. So I see the sync buttons in both cases. We're operating correctly. And I have layers and I have all the same menu options here at the top. I also have that collect data button, that plus at the bottom right. And when I do that, it opens up a menu. And that menu is that first question, similar to Spotted Lanternfly, which takes up half the screen. So you still have the map and you have your form at the bottom. And I can tap and hold and make this the full screen, or bring it back down to almost nothing so that I can see the map more. But otherwise it operates really exactly the same. It looks like I'm getting much better GPS accuracy here, but the same kind of things apply. You're going to get the same message at the top, the same crosshairs with that blue circle around you, and the same ability to add data. Smaller screen, and you might want to balance where your data form is, scroll it up and down and use the map when you need to, but should operate really the same. And that disconnected workflow also applies to the iPhone. So be sure that you're seeing that sync button and that you have downloaded an offline map. So I just thought I'd show you that briefly, what it looks like on the iPhone, but it really does work the same and it should follow the same standards. Just a final reminder, and maybe this is a good time for me to add these links one more time to the chat box. Just another reminder to take that quiz. Feel free to test yourself a little bit while things are fresh, and when it seems a little bit easy to answer these questions, it really does help cement it in the workflow for yourself. And it helps me with a little metric as well. So I put those links in the chat one more time for everyone. And finally, I know that I've given you a lot of information. I know that I gave you a getting help page with lots of other folks to go to, but please feel free to come to me if you have any questions. And I'm just going to kind of hold and say, firstly, Erica, did I miss anything? Is there anything you'd like to see again or with more detail, or anything you'd like to add?
No, that was great, Jenny. Very, very helpful and in-depth. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Erica. That's easy. Okay, so then anyone else, are there any questions or thoughts or anything you would like to see again or in more depth? And if you prefer, you can type it in the chat and I'll address it, but you're also welcome to just speak up. There aren't that many of us here. Wow, what a great crew. Well, I have confidence in you. And again, feel free to reach out if something should occur to you. You know where to go. I'm going to put us back a couple slides so you have that list. Oops, there we go. That list in front of you. But please feel free to reach out if you need help, and good luck out there. Thanks for coming, and I'll let you have the rest of your day back. Thanks, everyone.